the use of secondary data as well as primary data, collection techniques available, developing a sample, questionnaire construction techniques, and concerns. The danger bias, ambiguous questions, and human error in interviewing.
Primary data. Primary research data is information that is gathered by the person conducting the research. Instead of relying on pre-existing data, the researchers gather the information they need themselves. They can also commission a person or organization to gather the data for them. People typically collect primary research data through surveys, experiment, or observation. Primary research data is most often used and researchers need accurate results on a specific topic. Secondary data. Secondary data is information that was part of a previous study and become accessible to everyone. Secondary data is expensive to use and readily available, while the accuracy may not always be as reliable as primary data. It's still an incredible help for resources. A person typically uses secondary data when they're doing a study that has a defined timeline or a strict budget. Collection methods for primary data. First is survey. As a great way to collect primary research data, surveying a large sample size provides accurate data, and the ability to tailor a survey to fit almost any study makes them versatile and helpful. Once the survey is complete, releasing the result to the public can then make it useful as a secondary source of data. You can conduct surveys with mail-outs, face-to-face interview, or over the telephone. Second, experiment. Conducting experiment is another great way to collect primary research data. Experiments deliver accurate data because they take place in the controlled environment. By having control over all the variables, you can make sure the outcome is specific to the topic you're studying. Collection methods for secondary data. Government databases. When looking for secondary data, a great place to start with any government databases. These generally compile massive amounts of secondary data from surveys, interview, and other methods. You can find statistically data or many different subjects, and the databases are quick and convenient to access. Published journal. Looking at business journal or specific journal is an excellent way to discover secondary data. These journals are where a lot of experimental studies, surveys, and other research project publish the result for others to learn from. Benefits of using primary data. It's specific. A major benefit of collecting primary data is that it's specific to your particular study. Secondary data can provide generalized results that can be helpful but not as in-depth as you need. Collecting primary data allows you to tailor your collection method or its deliver specific result. Increases accuracy. When you collect the data yourself, it's easier to make sure all the information is accurate. You can place check and balance as that you can monitor. This helps to ensure the integrity and accuracy of the study. Gathering primary data is the best way to ensure the accuracy of the information. It's up to date. Since gathering primary data requires you to collect the data yourself, the information you find is the most up to date. By using primary data collection methods, you can engage with the public, which can help show what is the most recent information. The study is likely to have the best result because the data comes from current trends and information. Benefits of using secondary data. It's expensive. Secondary data is very expensive to use. You can find it online for free or it could be available at the small cost of purchasing a scientific or business journal. This is a major benefit of secondary data because it allows studies to take place and build on previous research while still maintaining a reasonable budget.
It takes little time to collect. Secondary data collection takes almost no time. It is simple as going online and researching the topics you're studying. Although you may need to sift through journals, previous studies, and a lot of data, it is still a lot faster than going out and observing or survey people so that you can gathering primary research data. Disadvantage of primary data. It's time consuming. Even though it can deliver the best result, collecting and using primary data can take a lot of time. First, there is initial stage of setting up your collection method. This might see you developing questions for a survey or creating a parameter of experiment. It can be costly. Collecting primary data is not a cheap endeavor. Many resources go into obtaining information. Not only are there resources for the initial study, but there are also costs to hire people to help conduct surveys, observation, and experiments. Disadvantage of using secondary data. Out-of-date data. It is using secondary data, there are a higher likelihood and information is out of date. It may have been gathered months and every years ago. Trends and patterns change quickly. While this data can be great jumping off point, you may still need more relevant data. Conducting primary research guarantees up-to-date information, although it's more expensive to obtain. Pre-existing bias. Rarely is a secondary data delivered in a raw form. Most of the time, the people conducting the research have reported in the way of the best suits their study. While the data itself is always objective, the way a research team can interpret or represent an information can be influenced by their view of the data. It's important to examine only the facts and watch out for bias when using secondary data.